Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about conjugating regular verbs where there's three different types and that all comes from how they end. Um, so for example, if you look out on page 59 where a bunch of your vocabulary is, you'll see that you have a list of verbs. And they can end in one of three ways. They either end in, I don't know if I should try, they either end in, alright, hold on, that's not working very well for me. Okay, so they could either end in IR, AR, ER, or IR. Okay, so those are the three different types of verbs. The three different types you have are AR, I want to say, the three different types of verbs that you have are AR, DR, and IR, and they're all, and so how they get classified is how they end. So verbs that end in IR are called IR verbs, verbs that end in AR are called AR verbs, and verbs that end in ER are called ER verbs. So let's go back. Okay, so we're going to start with our AR verbs. Okay, and so how you conjugate a verb is simply by changing its ending. So hablar means to speak. If I want to say, so when the first thing that I'm going to do when I am conjugating a verb is I'm going to drop the ending. I'm going to drop the AR, ER, or IR. So when conjugating a verb, first drop the AR, ER, or IR ending. Okay. All right, and then you're going to add the appropriate ending. So if I want to say I speak, I add an O to my stem because this is the verb is made up of two pieces. Its stem is everything in front of the ending, and the ending is either AR, ER, or IR. So I keep my stem, I keep my obl part right here. I keep that, and so I'm going to add, so you'll notice that that's the same throughout, right? Okay. I kept that for every pronoun, but if I want to say I speak Spanish, I add an O and it's hablo. Hablo español means I speak Spanish. If I want to ask, do you speak Spanish? I'd add an AS. ¿Hablas español? If I want to be more formal, I'd say, ¿habla usted español? Or if I want to say, she speaks Spanish. Ella habla español. He speaks Spanish. Él habla español. Nosotros, we speak Spanish. I'm going to add an AMOS. Hablamos español. Do y'all speak Spanish? ¿Habláis español? Or if I'm in Mexico, ¿hablan ustedes español? Or if I want to say they speak Spanish, hablan español. And I'm going to do that for all of these verbs. So if I wanted to say I help, it's yo ayudo. If I wanted to say you dance, tú bailas. He looks for something, él busca. We buy new books, compramos libros nuevos. We wish there was no class today. Deseamos que no fuera una clase hoy. Enseñar. So for all of these verbs, I add these endings when I want to say that different people are doing these actions. So this is what you focus on. These are your AR endings right here. Okay, so let's do some practice. Okay, so what we're going to focus on is adding, whoops, I don't want that. We're going to focus on adding these endings to our verbs. Okay, so if I go up here, ¿Por qué blank usted muchas horas en la oficina? If you remember, the subject of your sentence comes after the verb when you make a question. So we want the spelling of trabajar that matches usted. So basically for all of these, what we're going to look at is their endings. So we've got AN here, we've got AS here, we've got A here, and we've got AMOS here. If usted is my subject, which of these endings matches usted? So if I go down here and I look at usted, the ending that I see is an A. So my answer should be right here. Trabaja, because they match up, okay? Los doctores blank en el hospital. It's when it's a statement, your subject comes before the verb. So we have the doctors work in the hospital in the morning. Well, doctors isn't in our chart, so we have to think of doctors as they. Okay, and so then again, we're going to want to look at our endings. This ending versus this ending versus this ending versus this one. Which ending matches ellos? Well, if I go down here, here's ellos, it's an AN. So then my answer should be this one, trabajan. Okay. Yo blank español en el laboratorio de lenguas. The subject of the sentence is yo. And so again, I want to look at my endings. I've got an O, an A, an AN, and an AS. Which of those endings matches yo? If I go over here, it's an O, so my answer is going to be practico. Oops. Okay. Oye, Miguel, blank tu francés. So yes, his name is mentioned, but it's saying, Miguel, do you speak French? So the subject is actually you. Okay. And then again, I want to look at my endings. I've got AMOS. AN. A. Why does it want to keep doing this? And AS. Okay, so if 2 is my subject, you go over here, is 2, the ending is AS, so the answer should be hablas. Okay, then mis amigos y yo blank en bicicleta en la plaza, so it's a statement, so my subject is coming in the beginning. That's not in my chart, my friends and I. However, that's the same thing as saying we, which would be nosotros. Okay, and then we want to look at our endings. We've got O, AMOS, A, and AN. Okay, so if nosotros is our subject, AMOS is the ending that we want, so our answer is montamos. Okay. And then up here, ustedes blank buenas notas en todas las clases. Your subject is ustedes. So then we want to look at our endings. We have an AN, an AMOS, an AS, oops, an AS, and an O. Okay, so which of those endings matches ustedes? I go down here, it's an AN, so my answer is sacan. Okay, so here you're gonna pick the verb and we're gonna conjugate it correctly. It says yo nadar estudiar en la biblioteca. Well, it makes most sense that you would be studying. So if I write in estudiar here, the first thing I'm supposed to do is get rid of my AR, and that's my stem, estudi. Yo is my subject. If I go down here, the ending I'm supposed to add is an O, and that's how I'd say I study. Oops. Okay, then down here, Alejandro enseñar mirar en la Universidad de Miami. So makes most sense that he teaches. So this is the verb that I'm going to want. Alejandro is my subject. Okay, but Alejandro is not in my chart, so I would think of Alejandro as he. Okay, and so then if I plug in enseñar here, the first thing I want to do is get rid of my ending, and then I add the ending that matches L. If I scroll down here, that's an A. Enseña. Alejandro enseña en la Universidad de Miami. Okay, nosotros comprar, viajar, papel y bolígrafos and Office Max. It makes most sense to say comprar. And who's doing the buying? It's nosotros. So I would put comprar. Take off the AR, and if it's nosotros, then I'm going to add an AMOS. Okay. Ustedes practicar, preparar tenis. Makes most sense that you'd practice tennis. So it's practicar. My subject is ustedes. If I plug in practicar here, I take the AR off. If I scroll down, here's ustedes. I add an AN. Practican. Me gusta mirar bailar en la discoteca con mis amigos. Bailar is bailar makes most sense. That's what you would do at a discotheque. You would dance. And we're not going to change it because when you have two verbs working together to express the same idea, you don't need to conjugate the second one. So what you're saying here is I like to dance. To dance is the infinitive, which is the unconjugated form of the verb, so we leave it alone. Me gusta bailar. Tú siempre tomar, ayudar, café en la cafetería. Tomar makes the most sense because tomar is to drink. Okay, so if I put in tomar, if it's tú, who's my subject, then I take off the AR and I add the ending that goes with tú, which is an AS.